Welcome to the Mindset Mile podcast, the show that'll leave you empowered to take action towards becoming the turned up version of your already awesome self. I'm your host, Aisha Zaza, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mindset Mile podcast. I'm so happy to be here with you today. How are you doing? Tell me how you're doing. I miss you on Instagram. Please message me or tag me how your new year is going. What episodes have been speaking to you lately? Just how are you in general? Don't be afraid to share. If it's not the way that you thought this year was going to start out, I want to give you a virtual fist bump and hug and high five. So please message me or tag me in your stories so I can see your beautiful face or where you're doing your Mindset Mile and what episodes are speaking to you. You can find me on Instagram at Aisha Zaza. This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Upspace Fitness. Thank you, Upspace, for making this episode possible. Speaking of Instagram, a while back, I had asked on stories to share what topics you guys wanted to hear. And a listener had responded wanting to know how to be more vulnerable in professional and personal relationships. And I love this topic. I think being vulnerable is actually one of my personal strengths. And so I'm happy to share what I know and believe about being vulnerable. And the first thing is I think most people view being vulnerable as a weakness. But I'm here to tell you that being vulnerable is a strength because it takes courage. It takes courage to put yourself out there. And when you do that, it invites other people to do the same. And there's so much power in that. Sharing our own experiences and hardships is one of the strongest ways to form connection with others, because most of the time people feel like they are unique with their struggles, their insecurities, and their doubts. But when they feel seen and validated from your experience, then they trust you and they feel comfortable coming to you with their own sense of vulnerability. So an example of this that I want to share, which you might already know about, when I got pregnant with my daughter, Shiloh, in 2020, it took me a while to process what was happening and how life was going to change. And I felt I kind of kept it to myself for a while because I was not ready to be met with the amount of excitement that people typically share in that type of news, which is so exciting and it is amazing, when you choose to do that. But I felt a lot of shame at first around not being super excited about this because I just was very nervous to step into this new chapter. I was afraid of how life was going to change and what it would look like, mostly because the way that people share about and talk about parenting and motherhood it doesn't sound very appealing, to be honest. People complain a lot about how stressed out they are, how you're never going to get sleep again, and do this while you can, and just wait until you have kids. You're never going to have your free time, and all of these doomsday things that people love to warn about really made me feel like I didn't want to give up life as I knew it because it was great as it was. And I never felt ready to, try for a family. I just kind of knew that it had to come on by surprise because if I just kept waiting for this feeling, I knew I would probably never have a family of my own. And I'm so, so happy, with my family and with my kids. But point being, the first emotion that I was met with when I found out the news that I was pregnant was not excitement. And I feel like that's all that you ever see is that people are excited. They're excited to start this new chapter. And when I felt anything less than that, I felt a lot of shame and I felt super like, who is not excited about this? Who doesn't feel happy when this is the news that they learn about how their future is changing? And I had never seen someone share anything different. And so I felt super isolated and nervous to share this news as I was not going to be able to obviously hide this as I was going to have a growing belly. And I wanted to announce it online as well. And when I did, I just was really vulnerable with everything that I'm sharing now, with how I was feeling, when I first found out the news. And I have to say, it was such a big relief to be honest with myself about how it felt. And I was met with so much empathy and so many stories from women that felt the exact same way as me, and that opened up about their own pregnancies and their own big life events and changes that they also felt nervous about, sharing with other people because they didn't feel the way that they thought they should. Want to know the most underrated form of self-care? Sleep. I am all about prioritizing sleep as a part of my self-care. And since we spend a third of our lives in bed sleeping, I love luxury bedding. Cozy Earth is my go-to brand when it comes to all things bedding, and I especially love their best-selling bamboo sheets. They're temperature regulating and incredibly soft. They're the first sheets I've used where I can feel a noticeable difference every time I get into bed. Snuggle up this Valentine's Day in Cozy Earth bamboo sheets. You can thank me later. Cozy Earth provided an exclusive offer specifically for my listeners, so you can enjoy 35% off your entire online order when you use code MindsetMile. Enjoy! So, being vulnerable will benefit everyone in our lives, but the person who benefits the most truly is ourselves. It helps us work through our emotions easier instead of pushing them away. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was pushing away my feelings because I didn't know how to talk about them. I didn't know, I was scared of being judged by them. I was judging myself by them. And so I was really trying to push them away instead of naming the pain and just working through it myself. So when we push feelings away without dealing with them, that's how resentment builds. That's how we become angry and passive aggressive. And those are not places we want to be operating from. And if you're a very guarded person, then you're probably looking for an exact roadmap on how to be more vulnerable. And the truth is, the how-to is just a decision. It really is a decision to just be brave. And it's a decision to not judge your thoughts so harshly that you feel like you can't share them in your personal and professional relationships. It's really easy to have a dialogue with yourself over your own thoughts and ideas, but then what ends up happening is that we keep them to ourselves because we're afraid of being judged. But you have to remember that you cannot assume the response of the other person. What you're going to do is you're going to keep reassuring to yourself that how you feel is not important, that it's not worth sharing, or that you never have good ideas, which is not true. And I mean, I get it. We stay guarded so that nobody can hurt us. It's not easy to express the sides of yourself about which you have the least confidence or certainty. And by being vulnerable, it gives people the chance to respond to those things. And sometimes it doesn't always go the way that we want. But the reward of doing so is deep connections and deep relationships. The reward is allowing space for creativity and collaboration over competition. Your willingness to not be or respond perfectly in every situation shows you are secure with yourself and that you don't feel the need to show up the way you think others expect you to. And I personally think that is the highest form of self-confidence. So vulnerability equals confidence. Anytime you have the opportunity to put courage over comfort, you create an opportunity to grow. When you stay fixed in your comfort zone, you are prevented from exploring all of the opportunities that exist in the world for you. One of my favorite episodes I did is way back to episode 15 called The Answer is Always No Until You Ask. I feel like this really goes hand in hand with vulnerability. Because when you think about what you have to lose by opening up and being honest with yourself or anyone else, and when you can ask the question that you're scared to ask, knowing that the answer no isn't going to kill you, this is when being vulnerable will start to feel like a strength. Because you will see how one closed door does not mean stop or that you're never going to have what you're asking for. It just means try the next door. So remember that vulnerability means courage, and courage leads to confidence. If you want to change your life, start leaning into your vulnerability. I hope this episode spoke to you. If it did, please tag me on social media so I can see you at Aisha Zaza, and so other people can also find this episode. Please also give the show a rating and review. That helps me so much, and it helps other people find the show as well. Thank you so much, fam, for letting me spend a few minutes with you this week. I can't wait to see you next week. And until then, make it a great day.